like, of course, like I have other stuff, errands, laundry, random stuff. And, I'll come off these pods just absolutely fired up and motivated and end up working a full day and getting so much more done. Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and the founder of Catani Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a very, very special episode of the Cash Flow Chronicles. I am your host, Jonny Catani. And if you're wondering what makes this episode so special, well, number one, it's another solo episode, and I'm just fine-tuning my solo episode skills. But most importantly, today is the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. Let me get a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I can hear you all clapping, and I'm very, very grateful because if it wasn't for you, the listeners, the reviews that I get and the feedback that I get is absolutely, pushes me and motivates me to keep going and keep doing the pod because you guys, it's a daily podcast, 5 days a week for 1 whole year. Absolutely crazy. I was trying to decide how I wanted to do this episode, right? And what I decided was the best thing to do is a reflection. So I reflected back on this crazy roller coaster of a year. I mean, and I'm just talking like, personally, professionally, just, it's life, right? Stuff happens. Life happens. Great things, a lot of great things. Absolutely. Right. Not everything was a low. There were a lot of highs as well. But the podcast has always been kind of the foundation that I didn't even realize it would give me, in terms of like pushing me to keep going and meet people. And, I've really come up with 3 big, kind of lessons and things that I've learned and reflections really, which I will get to. But, with this being a foundation, it's really, really nice to have something solid that works, that I'm, I like to think I'm good at it. I get a lot of great feedback from guests, listeners, about being a host, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So it's nice because, if you're an entrepreneur, you understand, right? Like it's crazy. The old joke is quit your 9 to 5 and, work 24 hours. It definitely in the beginning, I pushed myself harder. Now I've been able to really be efficient with my time so that I don't have to. Not to say it doesn't happen. There are absolutely long days, long nights, early mornings, well, every morning's an early morning because I get up and I have my routine. But what I'm saying is if you're an entrepreneur, you understand that, there's not a lot of stability, truthfully. And so it's nice to have that stable thing that is always there, right? And I can always rely on it. And, it's a really, really great, well, I'll get to it, but it's a really, really great tool to have in the tool belt for sure. And so if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, this is me pushing you to start one because they're absolutely incredible. And by no means you need to do a daily. At best ever, I ran into Whitney Sewell. Shout out to Whitney Sewell. He was instrumental in helping me get started with the pod, giving me some really, really great advice. And I saw him at Best Ever. And, it was a year since I saw him, and I hadn't started it then. It was still just an idea, although like I was making moves. But, he first question he asked me last year, so Best Ever Conference 2022, was he was like, "Are you married and do you have kids?" When I told him that I want to do a daily, he goes, "Are you married and do you have kids?" And I said, "Nope and nope." He goes, okay, then I think it's a good idea. And we were reflecting, now that it's been a year, and he's still going. I think he's done like 1,700 episodes or something crazy, and now he has like some guest hosts, like some different people will host, but he's still doing it for the most part, but we reflected back and we're like, now that how long, like how challenging a daily podcast is, would you do it again? And neither one of us could really definitively say that we'd do it again. And we were laughing about, there's something to be said about kind of being naive and not really knowing what we were getting into, which is just crazy. You really don't know. And I think I'm grateful for that, honestly, because I think knowing what I know now, I don't know if I certainly wouldn't do it now with like other business things going on. I had so much more time, and it's so nice to have like such a dialed team that can get things taken care of. And truthfully, for the most part, I really only have to hit record. So we were joking about that, right? But it takes a lot to get going. I mean, once you have the momentum, it's so smooth. But man, getting started, the nerves, like, I mean, some of my earlier podcasts, because when I, just a dumb kid who didn't really know much, some of my questions weren't great because I really just didn't have a lot of questions to ask. And now, of course, I can carry on a conversation with anyone really. And, that I'll kind of get to that in more detail and how grateful I am for that. But, it's come so far, and I'm extremely grateful for the guests who came on in the beginning, who really, just gave me a shot when, I was having people on, Gino Barbaro, I'll never forget, came on before I launched, so, I'm extremely grateful that people were willing to take a chance and come on a brand new pod that, hadn't even launched yet. And not to say that I didn't have high caliber people, but I think what's different now is I'm a much better host and conversationalist. And so I feel more confident getting all, like, I had a lot of people, and I have a lot of different people on, and not everybody needs to have, 1,000, units or, 100 million in assets under management. But my ability to, those guests are now reaching out to me, which is just absolutely incredible. I've got some incredible guests coming up, you guys, and I am so excited. Just recently, had Joanna Garzillion, who is, a life coach for Goldie Hawn, Monica Lewinsky, like huge names. Like that's big, to have that caliber person on, and and it's so great. So without further ado, let's get to my 3 reflections, because I'm kind of teasing them. And I want to talk more about the guests, but it's kind of part of it. So number 1, first and foremost, is this is a team game, right? On so many levels. Number 1, shout out to my original production team. I still have my same assistant that I've had this whole time. Shout out to Rose. She's absolutely amazing. She handles all my scheduling, follow up. She emails the guests, you guys, every single day, like Monday through Friday. There's obviously a new episode, and she emails that guest every morning to let them know that their episode is aired, give them the links, all the social media collateral that the team makes. And she's absolutely amazing. Like, I'm so grateful for her. Of course, to my original producer, April, if you're listening, still extremely, grateful. I'll never forget it. In fact, she reached out the other day and talked about the episode I did on Silicon Valley Bank. So hopefully she's listening to this one, because I'm very, very grateful. And of course, now my new team is, they're all rock stars. I'm especially grateful for my coach, Kevin. He's been absolutely instrumental in, fine tuning and refining like just the little things, that you don't really think about. Like for me, you guys, I shoot from the hip. Like I just figure it out as I go. And it's definitely cost me in some ways, uh, but to me, it's worth it, Of course, like you don't want to go out there and do a bunch of dumb stuff and lose money and whatnot, but it's going to happen. Like you will mess up, right? It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have or, any of that, there will always be something that comes up that's unforeseen. And so, it's important, as Hunter Thompson says, money follows speed. So it's important to move quickly. And, that's what we've done with this pod is just move quick. And he's been instrumental in, helping me kind of fine tune and refine things and kind of the new direction of the podcast, more solo episodes. And, and the data proves it, right? You guys love the solo episodes. Those are my most downloaded, my most listened to, which has just always blown my mind because I have such such incredible guests. All of the guests have just been so amazing and some of the best ones. And, it's a bit of a running joke, in like podcasting and kind of in business in terms of, if people in the industry are enjoy an episode, then it wasn't done correctly because that means it was probably too like in the weeds. And I know that you guys can listen to that and understand it, right? Because if you've been listening all along, you've learned right along with me. But it's kind of like a running joke where, especially with like content, when you're sending it out, making a reel that, hundreds of people, thousands of people are going to see. And, it doesn't land because you got too in the weeds and use too much jargon, and, the average or, someone who's never invested in real estate, like they're going to know what IRR is or how it's calculated or how a cap rate's calculated. So, certainly so I try to explain. And so when I get feedback from someone like April, who's like, hey, there, you did a really great job explaining that. And of course, I believe that I explained it in, kind of very simple terms. Obviously I did. But someone from the industry is not going to reach out and say, thank you for that because they know exactly what's going on. Right. So it's just kind of funny, but so that's number one, team game. So again, thank you to my team. Been absolutely amazing. Number two, it's, and I like knew this going into it, but I didn't realize how much this would bring, but it adds so much value to other people. Like it is such a great way to help others, right? Let's say someone just wrote a new book. Like I've had people on, Rich Fettke was on to, talk about his new book. I've had a few people on book tours. Hunter, shout out to Hunter, came on and told the world for the first time that he was switching to the active side of real estate and they were, had a deal under contract, that this awesome deal they're doing down in Phoenix. So it's really great to be able to add value to someone of that level because that's about the only value I can add right now. Right. And of course they know that, and they know that, and as time goes on, like, of course I'm going to just be add more and more value, and the podcast is going to be more and more valuable. I mean, in 3 years from now, this, when you've got hundreds of thousands of downloads, million downloads, maybe, and then you're getting just the most high caliber people. Right. And we already are, like, I'm already getting feedback. Just got a message from the team over at Rise, from their marketing coordinator, about how much their audience, like their group, their list and stuff that they send out marketing materials to, loved Zach's episode. So Zach Haptonstall's Rise 48 CEO, great guy, met him at Best Ever. I mean, just absolute genuine human being. And everybody loved his episode that he came on, and their listeners loved it. And so now I'm having, we're working on getting their CFO and co-founder, Bikram on to come on, which would be absolutely amazing, right? Just, I mean, it's going to be filled with so much value. I'm excited for you guys to bring that. But the point is, like, I don't have a ton of money, to like, the things that I can add are the podcast, and I have time, and, what, like a very kind of a nuanced thing, which I also knew this too, is the network that I've grown. So now it's cool because people will see that I've had a guest and reach out to me to connect them with that person, whether they want them on their podcast or, they liked what they heard. That's why we put everything in the show notes, right? I always say we'll put in the show notes, make it super easy. And those are little things that you can do. And so you can get these high valuable people on. And so now they're reaching out to me, and it's just like, I know I keep repeating that, but you guys, it means like I said, having the stability of the pod and seeing it, really start to get momentum, and people want to come on. It just like, it honestly, it makes me, it gives me so much motivation. Like, and I'll be honest, you guys, there are days where I do not, like, I'm just not feeling it. And, the last thing I want to do is like get on and host a pod. Like, I'm like, oh, am I really going to bring value here? And then you'll get a guest on the other end who's just hyped, like, oh, how, like, yeah, I can't wait to tell you about what I'm up to. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about this, and this, like, and then that is just contagious, and they get hyped, and, they have a great story. And then of course, boom, 30 seconds in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so awesome. And so many times I've been like, okay, I've got 2-3 pods today. I'll just record the pods. Like, at least I did that. And then, I'll go do some other things, like, of course, like I have other stuff, errands, laundry, random stuff. And, I'll come off these pods just absolutely fired up and motivated, and I end up working a full day and getting so much more done. And, it's crazy, just to think about how much value it can give and how much value it gives, right? Like both ends, just stuff that I didn't even think, you just don't know is going to be part of it. And, it's been really great, and I'm really, really excited for the direction that the podcast is going, and to keep going. Like, I don't plan on stopping, of course, redirecting a little bit, right? Like, it's not going to be a daily, after this month. Well, I don't know. We'll see. It's funny because I've been talking about going all solo, but I've been getting so many high valuable people reaching out to me that it feels wrong to move it to a solo podcast. So, we're going to be very, very selective, like very high value people, but, I believe what I'm most likely going to do is Mondays, will be an interview episode. And then Wednesday and Friday will be solo episodes, which will be great because then it's, one thing I will say about having guests and doing the guests is it's a lot easier in the sense that, especially now that I, can really hang with any conversation is, just pressing play. And then it goes into the cloud and the team accesses it and edits it and does everything. And then Rose does her thing. And I literally just have to, talk to someone about my favorite topic. I could really talk forever about real estate. Well, that's not true. I talked about how Best Ever. I was joking about how I found the limit for how much I want to talk about real estate, but really it's just because you just stand around and, it can be overstimulating, but truthfully, I really can't get enough of it. So it is really nice and will require, it's easy to do these one-offs, especially, this one's an obvious one because I have something to talk about. So, it's going to challenge me to continue to create, solo material, which really won't be hard. I mean, there's so much going on economically, financially, globally. I mean, there's always going to be something to talk about. So I'm really excited. But yeah, it does look like we're going to keep having guests just because, and even when, like I'm not necessarily always going to be reaching out. So there may be weeks where it's 3 solo episodes, but what's cool is that I can always, like, if I meet someone or, some high value person reaches out to come on the show, I can always like just, uh, get them scheduled and release a interview, right? Have them on. So it's really, really awesome. So we'll get to the third thing here, which is my favorite, a little bit selfishly, of course, but also like, if you're like me and you love to learn and you're just a constant learner, never stop learning, then this one's for you, because the knowledge that I've learned, like, is just, I mean, like I said, I can hang in any conversation. And don't get me wrong, there are certainly things that I don't know a lot about, things I haven't done. But, when you've done 300 interviews and, talked to, 300, very intelligent experts in the industry, in many different industries as well. When you've done that many, it's just like, and I'm a sponge still, so I am extremely grateful, again, to my amazing guests, as, of course, the ones who came on in the beginning and really carried the show while I was really learning. Like I said, I'm new to the industry and like, just was like, okay, this is how I'm going to learn about the industry, which is why I did a daily. And I've talked about it. I've talked about that being part of my decision, because I knew that I wanted to learn and this was going to be the best way. Like, I listen to podcasts and I read, like I read books and all of that, but like talking to people is much, like, I learned so much better this way. So the knowledge that it's just, and now I can hang in any room and people ask me questions and starting to see me, growing and becoming an expert in my own right. And, oh, by the way, like, I'm not an expert podcaster, but, I've done 300 episodes, like that's basically 5 years of a, once a week podcast. And so, I mean, that's just invaluable, to so many people. And, I can help, I helped, my amazing wife, partner, girlfriend, Sam. She started a pod, I motivated her to do one. And, a lot of people from Raise Masters have reached out. I've connected like probably 20 people with Kevin. And I think at least three or four people have taken him up on something, whether it's the production, the coaching, whatever it is. And that's amazing. Like, I love being able to do that, And so, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, reach out. Like, I'll be happy to help you, coach you. I've got a good friend in Chicago who is, like, when I say like an astrologist, I mean, like, he is, his name's Blake. Shout out to Blake. He is, I mean, extremely knowledgeable when it comes to stuff, like actually studied it in the sense of, not just your casual basic girl who's like, oh, like, I'm a Virgo, and what's your moon sign? Like, of course, that's part of it. And I joke. But I do believe in that stuff. And so, but he reached out and I helped him start a podcast. And it's just been so great to be able to help people do that. I've inspired people who are already doing a podcast to do more episodes each week. Some people went from 1 to now doing up to 3. So it's so much knowledge, and it's so awesome to be able to give that back, because I am new to the industry. And like I said before, those are just the things that I'm able to add value with now. And that's just going to grow even more, right? Outside of the podcast, right? Business wise, professionally, people are starting to ask me questions. I've been able to help my family. My dad's investing now. He's asking me questions. We're working on some other stuff as well to kind of get him more involved in investing and more comfortable with investing. He's just an old farm boy from Idaho, and he knows he needs to start investing to like make money, but he just does this, he's amazing. And he's getting there, but he just does such small increments. And like I said last week, you guys, start there. By all means, like you need to be investing. And as long as you're investing something in kind of, I was talking to a good friend of mine who is a doctor. He's finishing up his residency, and shout out to Dr. Kaplan. And he's not a high income earner yet, but he knows he will be. And so he started to do little things. He's got an advisor, and I would encourage you guys to do that, right? Of course, be smart about it. Like I always say, do your due diligence, right? Nothing changes just because, it's just like, oh, it's okay if I lose this $500 in the stock market. Well, wouldn't it be great if you could double it, right? Just by doing a little bit of research. So, but that's how you start, right? And then eventually it doesn't feel so, intense and stressful to wire 50,000, 100,000 into a deal, because, you've gotten used to that feeling, and you understand like that proof of concept, like, okay, this is going to go work for me. Right. And, these distributions that we're getting from the short-term rental portfolio have been amazing. My dad's like, this is the most money I've made from investing with family. Unfortunately had some stuff go south with some other family members, so of course, for obvious reasons, he was a bit hesitant, but we're working on things, and he's starting to come around to it. And it's just been great. So that's it, you guys. 1 year, absolutely amazing, incredible year. I'm so excited for the year ahead, even bigger things coming, better things. So of course, again, thank you guys, listeners. If you've been listening this whole time, I can't thank you enough. It means the absolute world to me. And to have people come up to me at conferences and tell me how much they love the show, and, give compliments and which one they enjoyed. And, a former guest to find me like, oh, I couldn't wait to see you, I knew you'd be here, it is truthfully like, that's my thing. My superpower is people. And so when I'm helping people, like, it's the most amazing thing. And, now I'm, able to add so much value as a mentor for big brother, big sister. So it's been amazing, and even better things to come. But holy cow, 1 whole year, 200. This is number 267, you guys, episodes. Of course, I've done far more than that. Had some stash and all of that, right? I think well into 300, definitely, I shouldn't say well into 300, but definitely over the 300 mark. And so much more to come, right? Like, we're just going to keep going. And I'm so excited. So much momentum now. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Please reach out. If you want to talk about podcasts, reach out. Best way is on Instagram. Go to, at Jonny Cattani, JONNY CATTANI. Reach out to me. Also, working on that video series. It's almost ready. It's taking longer than I would like, I know. And I know some of you are chomping at the bit, but if you're on the list, you're going to get it first before anybody else has access to it. So go to thecashflowchronicles.com, thecashflowchronicles.com, the name of the podcast, super easy, thecashflowchronicles.com. And submit the form and you'll get an email, and it has a ton of value in it already. Lots of stuff to read right now. And then when it's ready, that list will get it first. So really, really excited there. So go jump on that list. You'll get it first. I will talk to you guys on Friday. Thanks so much. Have a great week, everyone. Happy 1 year to the Cash Flow Chronicles. Holy cow, totally just didn't even reflect on the fact we had a name change, right? I'm so used to it being the Cash Flow. The Cash Flow Chronicles sounds so much more natural. Like that's what it should have been the whole time, that I forget that it was called the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast, the IRR podcast for short, AO. But again, like I was saying earlier, only people in the industry understand that IRR. And so it was not a way for like, new people to be able to remember it, because it was such a mouthful. And, if you're not in the industry, or you're not a seasoned investor, or you're still brand new, you may know what IRR is, but like doesn't mean as much. So, the name change just absolutely was necessary. And it just feels like that's what it's always been. So I forget that it was the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. So anyway, happy 1 year, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so, so grateful. And I will talk to you guys Friday. See ya. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to KataniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.